and puts things into perspective awfully quick. I know when I woke up and found out about it. So our thoughts, our prayers are certainly with everyone that are going through that tragic situation right now. So, moving forward, I thought we had a good season, and I would like to thank a number of people, starting with Terry and the Pagula family, for all their support that they give Brandon, myself, Pete, and the entire organization on a day-to-day basis. That is huge from a leadership standpoint, top down, giving us what we need to win, and the support beyond just the financial support. And then everyone in our building, staff, players, just an incredible year in a lot of ways. And yeah, you're good, Martin. I act like I didn't hear it. And then you go to the fans, and this journey we experienced together this year was as good of a journey as we've experienced, and a lot of highs, certainly some lows, but being 10-0 at home, incredible. And that's the fans are a big part of that. But then the way that they travel every week to Detroit, to different places that we play, that does not go unnoticed or underappreciated. It's just incredible to experience the journey every season together like we do. I thought the year was a good year in a lot of firsts, in a lot of ways. We were able to take a team that there were a number of new players, young players, players that had never been in a Bills uniform, players that had never played in an NFL game prior. And we counted on a lot of those guys, and they did a phenomenal job. The coaches had a hand in that as well in terms of their ability to develop players or work through some of the injuries, maybe more so defensively, perhaps in the beginning of the year. So I applaud those guys. The leadership, overall, the players group that have led this football team, led by Josh. I couldn't do my job if they didn't do what they did this year, in particular this season, and the way that they went about their business. And when you deal with adversity like you do every season, you need that leadership, that player-driven leadership piece to steer the ship in the right direction, or to take direction from me and connect it to the locker room and the individual position groups. And so that I just am so grateful for those guys and the way that they handle themselves. So overall, again, good season. Came up a little bit short, and that feeling never goes away. I know it. Some people say it goes away. At least for me, it doesn't ever go away until you get to a spot where you can say, "Hey, we were the best in the world," and that is a lofty goal, but it's our goal every season, and that's what we look forward to doing every season. And we were just short of it this year in terms of a couple plays here and there, and that's what happens in the playoffs. Every play gets magnified. You go back to the Ravens game, and you're saying, "Hey, a couple of those plays go the other way, and we're not in that game." But they went our way. And then fast forward a week to last week, and you're saying, "Hey, a couple of those plays didn't go our way, but if they did, maybe we're working again this week in preparation for the Super Bowl." So with that, I'll turn it over to you and your questions.
How do you square with all the success that you've had here in Buffalo, ranking yourself in the 8 years? How difficult is it knowing that there's a narrative out there that this team just keeps up coming short? I know there's differences per season, but there's that narrative out there that this team can't get over that hump. How do you address that?
Well, until you get over the hump, right? There's always going to be a hump. Where's the hump start, though, right? Or where's it end, right? And I think that's just perspective of that's the easy narrative. And if you kind of get too far down into the weeds of that kind of negative connotation or negative mindset, you forget all the success that you have had. However, no one in this building, myself included, is comfortable or content with where we're at. And I think that's the greatest thing about the people in this building, Brandon, myself, Pete, certainly Terry, and our mindsets that it doesn't stop, right? We continue every year to try and start from scratch, put a team together, develop a team, get everyone to be on the same page, and put us in a position to win in the playoffs. And if you look at the last 2 years against a really good football team who are the two-time defending champs, we had the ball with a chance to win down 3 both of these last 2 years. And, it didn't happen. So I don't think there's any consolations in that, but perspective is important as it relates to, where we're at as a team, where we're at as an organization. And then are we giving ourselves a chance to win? Are we putting ourselves in position? And we were in a position, however we got there the last 2 years, to be in a position to win those games. And I think that's part of what we have to look at also, quite frankly, is on the last drive of the game, we came up short, and figuring out why, right? When we have the ball in a position to tie or win the game, we weren't able to get it done. And so now getting into the weeds on it, defensively, we have to perform better than we did. And that's real. And so, there's a lot that you look at. I'm sure we'll get into it. But I would say that we're very aware of where we are in place and time and where our team is. It doesn't mean you start there next season, but you certainly you feel good about the day-to-day and our methodology of what we're doing. Does that mean that you feel completely comfortable with where we're at and where we want to get to? No, not at all. And then I start with myself and saying right after the game, what could I have done better, right? And then you go into what I'm mostly responsible for, our coaching staff. What can we do better? And then we get into the different areas that have to all pair up to win at that level, right? And so, that's really kind of the progression. But overall, you don't want to lose sight of the success we have experienced, knowing that we've won some big games. It's not, you tell me what isn't a big game in the NFL anymore, right? Week to week, but we go in this year, we beat a Super Bowl winning coach in Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, who are a good football team, and do the same with the Baltimore Ravens, coached by John Harbaugh, who's also won a Super Bowl. So there's a lot of success and a lot of big games. What's left is to go win a world championship, which is a lofty goal, but one that we pursue relentlessly.
If I may, just to flip that question around, then, given what you said and knowing the successes that you had, what gives you the belief, the confidence in knowing that you have the way you do things will get you over that?
Where do you want to start? If you look at, I'll give you as much time as you need, John. If you look at, and I should have mentioned you guys. The support that you guys give us during the year, I understand. You guys want to win as well, and I get that. So I appreciate you guys as well for your support and all the stories you put out there. Not even just about football, but about what happens off the field. So your question was about the belief that we can do that. If number one, you got to believe in yourself if you want to accomplish anything, right? So the self-belief is huge. If you want to be a great reporter, I'm sure it's the same way, right? If you want to be a great, football coach, player, what have you, it's got to start with a certain level of self-belief. After that, it gets into, hey, the people you have around you. I'm extremely confident the people that are behind me and behind these walls. And then you look at what have we been able to do. So what usually, some semblance of history is a pretty good indicator of what could happen in the future. One of the things we've been able to do is not only the 17-year drought, but we got that turned around the first year. And listen, that is what it is. It's to me somewhat in the past, and I'll never forget it, the experience. But we have to continue to look forward and say, hey, what have we done? One of the things we've been able to do, I feel like, is sustained success, which is very difficult to do. There's a lot of teams that get to the AFC Championship game, let's say, but they're never to be heard from again. And I don't know how, what the narrative is around those teams. You probably can't say they come up short because they're never there again. So I'd rather be in the position we're in where we're continually knocking on the door. But I'm also not, like I told you, I don't deal well with sitting right on the edge and being like, hey, well, it was a good season, slap everybody on the back and say, we'll get them next year. That is the last thing that we're about. Brandon, myself. And so, but I'm confident in who we are. I'm confident that over the years, we've developed players who usually have played better here than elsewhere, whether it be college or going to another team on the pro level. Confident in that. And, I think that's huge, right? That you can do that. And you can take a team this year where we lost a number of leaders, as you guys have documented. We lost a number of players who were significant in our journey to this point, making an impact. And we were able to put it together, form a team. The team came together, and then we were able to win at a level that, to me, you're getting to the AFC Championship game, which is hard. It's difficult to do. So when you're in a position, you want to be there. And eventually, if you keep doing, I'll just say this, if you keep doing things right, not that we're doing everything right, but if you keep doing the right thing, eventually that door will open. I worked for a guy that went through something similar years ago, and he experienced something similar. And now he's, in the position that he's in. So I've just learned that firsthand, that you got to keep doing. Because if you don't do things the right way, you'll fall and you won't be ever heard from again. So,
Sean, when you say that, you worked for Andy 3 straight years in the championship, and you finally got through. But this time, 4 out of 5 years has been the Chiefs. Does it make it different that it's been in the way in their historic run and all those things, that you almost feel like it's inevitably got to be them and beating that team in order to get there? Does it make it any different what your approach is?
You never want to build your team to be one team, because you never really know, in fairness to the Chiefs, that you never really know that it's going to be them every year, although it has been them. And if you're, they're well coached, they don't beat themselves. They've got some star level players, and you have to be at your best in order to beat them. And we weren't. And so, to me, I don't look at it like, hey, it's just this one team. I look at it like, how do we put a team together against whoever it is every year, whichever team shows up in these rounds, and coach at a level and have the personnel at a level, all of us, starting with me, that we can beat them, whoever them is. And so there's a lot that goes into that, right? And like I mentioned earlier, from myself, coaching staff, personnel, all the things, that training room, weight room, it all has to be at a level of, are we Super Bowl equivalent in every area that we're operating in? And those are the conversations that have to continue to happen, and they have to be, yes, filled with love, but also truth. And if not, we're wasting our time. I mean, that's the reality of the situation, right? So you don't get up at whatever time you get up to get in here and stay late, to keep knowing going into the year that's not going to get there if you're not doing X, Y, and Z, right? So then you're living a lie, and that's, your time and my time is better spent than that. So,
Sean, can you talk about the defensive line play? I mean, again, the pass rush was struggled the other night, and that's been a theme in these playoff losses through the years. And you've invested assets in that area. How do you get the most out of your pass rush moving on down the line here?
you guys know what I believe in and how you build a team. And we have a quarterback. I think our offensive line has done a really good job, and in some cases, our defensive line has done done a really good job. The defense, a really good defense starts up front. Winning games, as you guys know, I talk about it, winning the line of scrimmage is critical. And, I felt like we did that at some times this year, not enough. And so, that's an area where I did see some of our players, maybe not statistically, but just overall factor-wise or performance-wise, improve up front. And that's important, right? So I won't get into all those guys, but that's important. You've got to play well up front. And I'm just talking generally speaking, and to win the line of scrimmage, you can control the game. And I believe that, moving forward, in order to move forward, just as a team in the games where I've been in the Super Bowl, it's your front is what gets you there, right? I mean, you have to have a good quarterback, but the O-line, the D-line, they're the guys that are getting you there, and they impact the game more than any position. And I believe in that. You guys know I've talked about that for since we've gotten here. So I know Brandon believes that also. So that's an important spot for us.
If I could follow on that, do you need to get bigger on that defensive line, especially obviously?
Yeah, I mean, and we'll look at everything. How do you I believe we have some good players and pieces, and it's how we add around those guys, Sal, to complement who they are and what they do already, as we look into the free agency period and the draft as well.
Brandon talked a little bit about this, like Chris Jones's they're just not floating out there, right? Like game-wrecking players, there's maybe 2 or 3 of those in the league. We saw what Will Anderson did the week before against Kansas City. How do you guys go about finding that? In your eyes, do you need that player, somebody that can kind of change the map a little bit on that side of the ball against some of these, especially not just Pat, but all these quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, and the list goes on.
Yeah, the AFC, I'll just speak for the AFC. I certainly know that better than I know the NFC. I mean, the AFC is just loaded with, really good quarterbacks, really good coaches. And so the short answer is they are hard to find, like Brandon said. You do need difference makers. And again, in my experience, you need 2 to 3 on each side of the ball that are difference makers like that. I'm not suggesting we have them, don't have them. I'm just saying that if you're just saying, hey, what gets a team to the Super Bowl, philosophically for me, that's you look at it, you study it, you've got about 2 to 3 at least on each side of the ball that are top 1 to 3, 1 to 5 at their position. That's real.
Sean, how do you analyze Joe Brady's first full season on the job? Obviously, the regular season scored a lot of points, second in the league, but the second half of the Ravens game, I think it was just 6 points. And then the Chiefs game, some failures in short yardage situations that you had been good at, that 4th down at the end there, that, the play isn't made. So holistically, how did you feel like Joe Brady did both all season and then in the most critical moments against Kansas City?
Yeah, I'll take the first part in terms of all season. So overall, I thought Joe did a really good job. He took what he had in this "everybody eats" slogan or whatever, and I think that was kind of the approach all year. And again, you look at what we were able to do in the pass game, but also in the run game, and keeping a team a 2-dimensional offense is hard to do. I thought Joe did a really effective job with doing that throughout the course of the year, and not really knowing, or the opponent knowing who to try and take away. So I think as a coach, just in general, when you can do that and take what you have, learn the strengths of your team, in this case the offense, and then use those strengths to form a good system year to year, I think that's a sign of a good football coach, or a good coach overall. Specific to the Kansas City game, I thought we made some big time plays. I thought we moved the ball. In fact, I think we outgained them. I don't know, can't remember quite the numbers, but there were some plays that I know Joe wants back, like I do, in any game. And so, and some of those are, you're talking about, in this case, 2-point play from the 1 yard line, right? That turned out to be a very big play in the game. The next 2-point play did as well, right? The 6 inches of a 4th and 1. That's how razor thin the margins are in these games. And it's just, to me, I don't like it, but it's fascinating to me because of the level of detail you have to have to win a game like that against a team like we were going against. And I know Joe and for sure myself, we don't run from that, right? That level of detail, that level of execution, the last drive. Why did it go the way it did, right? If you look at the last drive, Josh scrambles, I think, for the first down. The very next play, I think we tried to screen and go to a screen pump to get the ball down the field a little bit more. Our level of execution was not high enough. The next play, I think, was, help me out here, that batted down by number 90. So a defensive lineman made a big play in a big moment of the game, right? Where Curtis was coming open in a potential runaway, I think, from Reed, right? The next play was a check screen against a zero blitz, and we're this close. Karlaftis makes the play on the edge, just in a heck of a retrace effort, right? And the last play was the last play, and so again, I keep going back over those plays in my mind, along with others, of that's the level of detail, that's the level of execution, so on and so forth. And I know Joe does as well, and the whole offensive staff. But overall, Joe's wired the right way. I thought he did a really good job taking what he had in terms of finding the strengths of the players, connecting with them as people, keeping us on a pretty good path all season long, which was hard to do when you go through some ups and downs and whatnot.
Going back to the defense. To stick with coaching for a second, how do you evaluate the job that Matthew's made this season? What's your level of confidence in him?
Yeah, Matthew's done a nice job. But listen, I know there's plays that have come up, and I know he doesn't feel great about them, nor do I. Those are learning pieces for a coach in his position. And one of the things that's interesting about a special teams coach, or the position that they occupy, is when you get some injuries like we had in particular on the defensive side. Unfortunately, we kind of started with them, they stayed with us, and they kind of disappeared a little bit towards the back quarter of the season. They reappeared, but usually the special teams coaches feel the cumulative effect, because what happens is the special teams players get split up into defensive roles, and then they are left with, hey, what's left in terms of how I can formulate a group to go out there and play effectively. So all that being said, I'm confident that Coach Smiley is going to learn from those situations and plays that came up this year. And he knows we can't give up some of those plays that we gave up, and we have to be better.
Going back to the defense, they scored 32 points, their season high for the year. They had 28 first downs, which was tied for their second most of the season. There are other numbers that were good, exceeded their own, even their own standard, as good as they are. From a defensive standpoint, what, from an evaluation standpoint, do you need to do to keep them from having their best day of the year against you?
Yeah, no, I think Mark, and it's a fair question. We've played really good defense for a long time here. That's what we're used to doing. I would say this year probably not as good as we've played in the years prior. One of the things, however, I thought we did a really good job at this year, which has also been a hallmark of our defenses, is taking the ball away. I mean, part of this scoring on offense is from the defense taking the ball away. We did it again in the championship game, the AFC championship game. That being said, we didn't do enough. We didn't perform well enough in the Kansas City game. I would say, if you look back at it, we did make a key stop, the year before, similar, to allow us to go have a chance to win the game, which is prospectively an important piece. But to your point, we have to figure out a way to perform better against that football team.
Hey, Sean, you've been supportive of Dalton. This team they certainly have. It's commendable questionable, that he's played injured, I guess, which has come out now. How did you and the training staff, I guess, arrive at the conclusion that he would be best served being out there, even if he was playing through an injury? And after that part of it, how do you get him to be more consistently impactful going into year 3?
Well, Dalton's a really good football player. I think sometimes what happens is some of these young players come in and they set the world on fire the first year. And then what happens naturally is expectations all of a sudden rise to a level of, okay, then the next year is going to be up here. And I think that's just human nature for all of us. And Dalton didn't have that next step up type of year. Some of it was he missed some games due to injury. Then he came back and was trying to play through some of it. As far as the last ball, Dalton makes those plays, and it never comes down to just one play. And I want to make sure everybody knows that. Our confidence in Dalton is extremely high. He knows, and we know, that he has to get to a level of health and strength, playing strength, so that he can remain healthy through the course of a full season. A lot of these tight ends are coming out that are built a little bit differently maybe than they were years ago, in terms of they're a little bit more built like Dalton and some of these other guys that their names, these household names now. But the way he could set himself apart would be to add some of that strength, add some of that that play strength, and that durability would help him. And so I know Josh, myself, Brandon, offensive staff, all extremely confident in Dalton. Well, I would say similar to the way Brandon described it. It sounds, and thought Keon really got off to a good start. I'm going back in my mind to the Seattle game. He was almost dominant in that game, both catching and blocking, and was really starting to get it. And that's some of the journey for these rookies of getting them to understand how hard it is to play in this league and to play week to week. And you're not going against any slouch corner out there usually. And then he had the injury, unfortunately, at the end of the Miami game, all the while trying to make a play where Josh clearly trusted him. It was a critical 3rd and long play, and then he went down. So I would agree with what Brandon said, and he didn't play his best down the stretch, and some of it probably was due to coming off the injury, kind of get out of sync, out of rhythm a little bit. But it is something that he can learn from and improve on moving forward.
What was your perspective on when Kyer had to come in? It looked from the outset they were targeting him a couple times. Wasn't the cleanest game for him. Was there ever a point where you thought you had to do something different, maybe put Marcus in or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened in that game in particular is, so they're getting the ball out fast, and you guys saw they're getting the ball out fast. We're playing zone, and so we've got to tighten it up. I'm just talking generally speaking now, defensively, trying to give you guys the whys. And so when they're getting the ball out fast and you're in zone, you can sit there and go live a slow death, or you can tighten it up and play man, or we call it dog, when you're trying to either blitz or play front and coverage, we just call man. So in this case, we did both, and it didn't go great, as everyone saw. And the thing I love about Kyer, that's not going to stop him. He remains steadfast in his belief in himself, and he works extremely hard. The result wasn't great, and unfortunately the matchups weren't great for us, and so you're seeing some things happen in the back end. Losing CB was not easy, and they exposed us in some spots there.
Coming up a reset off, if you want to call it that, where you turned over a lot of leadership and went with a lot of you guys, and knowing you have maybe a little bit more room to work with salary cap wise, do you think this team is better positioned now going into the season?
It's I'm not going to pretend to say that I know all the numbers, and I don't get on those websites. I usually just ask Brandon, hey, what are we looking like? Where are we at? And so, where we were last year, I thought the team really did a good job, right? And that's part of what I'm saying when I'm saying being able to sustain success through different things that come up, right? And one of those is when you have a cap situation that isn't as friendly as you'd like it to be. And so you take what you have and you make it as good as you can make it every year. And that's what we've tried to do. And I think you see the results in that. Moving forward, it is important that we can do some things, right? Having that hopefully freed up space to do some things, to make some of these moves, to draft in a certain way that we can impact our team. And I'm confident in Brandon and his staff that will do that.
On that last drive, offensively, James wasn't out there. Was he dealing with an injury in that game?
No, not that I'm aware of, at least.
So I guess, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So I guess just to follow up on that, then looking back, hindsight's always 2020. He had such a huge game.
Yeah, he did.
Out there,
Yeah.
some of those moments?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I don't want to take anything away from Ty Johnson, however. And when you look at it, just the way, let me just back up on James first to give him his credit. What a game he played. What a year he had. And that's a great example of these players. We really drafted James to be a pass-catching running back, right? And he comes in and blossoms and just develops in more ways than one, on the field, off the field. He's in our leadership council meetings in the morning. And then just if you could have stood next to me and heard him in that game, the way what he was saying to me and how he was talking to me, it was even with the year he had, it was like he was on missile lock. Like to be his build and to play as physical as he did, he was in another, I don't know if he was in flow state or he was just in another stratosphere of his intent. It was incredible. Fast forwarding to that drive, usually Ty's on the field in call it a 2-minute type of drive. And so that's part of the reason for that. I'm sure if we continued the drive, Ty at some point was going to have to come out, James to go in just to give him a blow there.
And Sean, you're able to see a lot of cold issues down the stretch.
Yeah.
How much confidence that gives you about him going to next year?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, got in the way of Cole or impeded Cole's development was he was injured in training camp. I'm not sure if he missed the spring or not. He did miss some of the spring training camp, right? So that really gets in the way of growth development just because of reps to start off with, at least. What I love about Cole is, he had a tough first outing. And I think that was also a little bit perhaps a wake-up call of, okay, I thought I was ready, but maybe I wasn't. And then his process, bless you, got a lot going on in this room, man, So I don't know that time of year, right? Let me just finish, Matt, real quick, if you don't mind, for Ryan. I almost lost my train of thought. Cole. So no, but his development from that point on, Ryan, to where he was playing at the end of the year, not that it was exactly up to standard all the time, I thought was very impressive. And I credit the coaches, I credit Cole for sure, and Mike and Kareem Jackson for helping in that way.
Sean, to talk about Josh Allen like you did about his just what he did with the leadership committee and how that was led by him, and then to see him go out there this season and just have 6 interceptions. How did you see Josh level up his play on and off the field this season?
Yeah. I've mentioned this before, and now that we're at the end of the year close, Josh Allen is the reason. Josh Allen's leadership, his consistent leadership, was the biggest reason why we did what we did this season. Anybody that tries to say otherwise, I know better. I've seen it. And him now doing that every season for us, not an easy undertaking, but he is and was the reason. His leadership, his play in that regard, at least, Matty, went along with, was connected to his level of leadership on our football team. So I believe those two went hand in hand, and he continues to do that. We're going to win a lot of football games.
The leadership that he has, is it expected to be a leader as a quarterback, but how unique is it to see him lead the way he does? You've been around so many NFL players.
Yeah. Well, there's times when you have great players, but they're not necessarily great leaders. That's probably true in any area of life, right? Great talent does not make you a great leader. Thinking that one's a leader does not make you a great leader. Leadership to me is developed over the course of time. Excuse me. And Josh has grown and developed in those areas. And I really believe he understands, which is part of it, of growth and development and maturation. He understands what it takes to win, and not just win in the regular season, but win big. And that's part of this level of awareness that he's gotten to as a person and as a player.
You maybe insinuated that your defense took a step back this year. First season of Bobby being your defensive coordinator. What leaves you confident that he can improve going from year one to year two and help the defense improve along with him?
I thought Bobby, improved through the year. There's a number of plays he wants back in the last game, as do I. And, Bobby's wired in such a way that that's going to bother him, just like it does me. And he's a go-getter. He knows football. Calling plays, as I've said before, is probably the hardest job in the building. And he'll learn from those situations the other night. So, it's never about one person, never about one area, one player, what have you. It's how can we grow and develop all of us together. And in this case, Bobby's got his work that he wants to get done and that he needs to do, and the rest of us do as well. Yes.
Sean, on the drive with 10, 11 minutes left, did you think about challenging the spot on, I think it was Dalton, the third down? How much of that thought process was, we like the personnel grouping, so if we're going to do a push, you have a lot going on there in a short amount of time, right?
Yeah, I believe we went fast, right? We were on the ball. It was a situation, and I've already spoken with the league about, I would have liked to have seen them. The hard part for a coach in that situation, how much time was on the clock? At the 10 minutes. We're in the fourth quarter. We hold 3 timeouts. I don't really want to use one of those because sometimes spots are a little wonky in terms of how's that thing going to come out. We go down a timeout. You chart these games that usually, especially against Kansas City, you're going to be in a last drive potentially to win the game, and you don't want to be down timeout. So I would have loved to have seen a stoppage there. We spoke about that respectfully, and they didn't stop it. Just because to me, there's a difference between, this type of spot, or this type of spot or a full yard. And those are all different, potentially sometimes plays that you're trying to use or would use. And so, and again, just where the game was and how the game was trending, it's a good time to be like, hey, let's make sure we got this right. Right. I'm saying in terms of the spot leading into the last play. And for me, again, I thought it was important for us to have 3 timeouts because you never know what a game, usually against them, it's going to be in the last drive. And so was looking for a little bit of a help there maybe. But I understand too, you're on the ball fast. So there's a lot going on there and they may not want to chime in and stop it if we're on the ball. That's part of it, I guess.
There's a prevailing thought on maybe beyond. I asked Brandon about it as well. Not trying to get you guys in trouble, but could you understand why a section of the fan base may think that you guys got the short end of the stick on numerous calls in that game, particularly late? Like I said, not trying to get you in trouble.
But you are. No, I mean, listen, we went into the game. And one of my messages to the team, and this happens from time to time, is you're not going to get calls. We're not going to get calls. And I think when you prepare a team, you prepare them ahead of time mentally for this is the way it's going down. And that's and you live with that. That's not the reason why we lost. you start looking at that, you lose sight of all the things, all the adjustments you can make as a team, as a person, coach, player, what have you, to improve who we are and how we do things. So there's going to be some of that, and you have to be able to be above that and play above that.
Is that a message you have to say often? Is that specific to this opponent? Like, also not true.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think you just want to know. I think part of my job in developing a game plan or a plan, a complementary plan every week is what are the things that could get in the way of us winning, right? Or things that we have to be ready to deal with. When you're playing away, it's different than playing at home, and so that's, you hear a lot of people, hey, this is the crew we have this week, and what are their tendencies, and so. Look, at the end of the day, the game was decided on the field, and we didn't perform well enough to get the job done.
Sean, earlier in the season, I think after you guys wrapped up the division, you guys talked about how the next goal for you guys was chasing that number 1 seed. And when we spoke with Brandon earlier today, his opening statement, he said he would like to have that AFC Championship game here in Buffalo. Do you think that's a goal that this team needs to strive for, maybe going forward to make it even just a little bit more likely that you guys can finally get over that, having that number 1 seed to get an AFC title game here and have that big
I mean, I've been in that position before and lost, right? I mean, going back to my time in Philadelphia, been number 1 seed a couple of years running, had the first round bye, and then a team comes in and beats you. And I certainly understand why Brandon says that. I would like to play at home another round in front of the fans as well. That said, I don't think you can put just everything into that. Hey, we got to have the number 1 seed, because either way you skin it, you're going to have to play with poise. You're going to have to play with composure. You're going to have to overcome some odds. You're going to have to play with mental toughness as well as physical toughness. And so, it's, to me, it's nice. It'd be nice to have, but when you get it, you can't often, hey, we're good. And then a team comes in and takes it to you. So I just think overall, you've got to have the right ingredients as a football team to weather the storm wherever you're playing, because there is going to be a storm, whether it's at home or on the road. You're not just going to roll through an opponent unabated and because you're at home. So,
Sean, how do you view some of the success of the everybody eats mentality this season versus the idea of having like a number 1 go-to guy kind of moving forward?
Yeah. I think number 1s are great. They're hard to find. Let's just say difference-making players overall. But you also have to have a certain element of team, right, in those players, right? So, and they're out there. I mean, difference makers are out there. You just got to find them. And but that blend of difference maker, super talented, top 1 to 5 in the position, but also have the makeup, at least a certain level of the makeup of, hey, you know what, this is about the team. That's critical, and that blend is critical.
On a number of players, Brandon Bean and even yourself talked about how you have a slightly different demeanor this year. As you look back at the season as a whole, what did you learn about yourself? I got a new haircut. Went with that early in the year. You guys didn't notice, but yeah, I mean, listen, it's I heard some of the talk and I appreciate it. And it's, again, it's not like I was like one way and then all of a sudden I did this. To me, I know who I am as a person. I know who I am as a football coach. And I think when you get to that level, and I've tried to impart this on our players, is they're young, right? But when you get to a certain point in your life where you know who you are as a person, and you know what you stand for, and you know who you are as a coach and what you stand for and what you believe in, that's real powerful. And so I think that was a piece of it for me of arriving at that spot. I think a certain piece of it was being able to know that the team was in good hands, right? The leadership council led by Josh, the team was in good hands. And we can do a walkthrough. You guys were there. We did a walkthrough the Friday before the AFC Championship game. And I can do that as a coach, which is not common, because I trust our players, right? I trust our leadership group. And I told them that at the end of the season. And so you can do some of these things where it frees you up to really be who you really want to be and what makes the job enjoyable. And so I think all those things were just kind of going hand in hand this year. And in this mindset, it becomes a mindset too of, one of the things we did, I believe we've always had a good mindset and a good process. But one of the things I felt like was important is getting our players and our coaches, those that perform on game day, to a spot where they would feel free to just really cut loose and go for it. And I would just say that, you look at plays from our game and plays from the week before that got magnified, and certain individuals making a play, certain individuals not making a play. Those are the challenge for these players, for coaches overall, to continue to, go after it, right? I'll say is getting more and more difficult when the exposure, when it doesn't work out is the way it is, right? And when guys get, and what happens to, like, in Baltimore with their player. And so the best thing I've learned that I can do as a coach, and I've shared this with you guys, is to be exactly what they need me to be on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, right? So to meet them wherever they're at. And if they need confidence, I got to be the one that gives them confidence, or tries to, right? If they need me to be hard on them, then I got to be the one that has to be hard on them, or to challenge them. If they need me to bring a sense of humor on a certain day or week, then they need that. I just feel like we were able to set a pretty simple and clear level of expectations for us inside these walls. And then within that, the players and coaches, I believe, were able to go and just, hey, cut loose, because we've done this and we've done that. And that's the only thing we expect from ourselves. Now go cut loose and play free. I think that's some of what you saw, knowing that the results are, I hate saying it this way, believe me, they're variable. They really are. And that's the hard part of this business, or one part. That's hard.
Sean, as you look at your offense.
Yeah.
How do you balance carrying that over into next season when some of that is built on time on task and trust with players? Like the part about them playing more freely and you trusting them, it's going to be a different team next season. How do you carry over that culture?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mindset that we embrace. I mean, I had a great conversation with T-Bass, and what a year. You talk about a mental or a journey overall, and to sit down with him and really just sit back and listen to how he navigated this season. When you talk about a guy that, didn't have a great start to the season, coming off of what he came off of last season, but watching him navigate this season in the way that he did mentally, to go out there, let's just say, and kick that kick against the Miami Dolphins, 61 yarder. That doesn't happen without an unbelievable mindset. And so, and I think I told you, I had people after the game saying, I can't believe you were going to do that. And this is for all of us, right? Our fan base, we've got to have this type of mindset together. Meaning, I can't believe you're going to try that 60-some yarder with all the bad things that could have happened. Well, we can't think about it that way. We got to be like, hey, winners have a winning mindset. Only the good things are going to come out of this, right? If you expect to win, you have to first believe you're going to win. And I know he believed he was going to make that kick, and so did I. And he goes and does it. That doesn't mean it's always going to turn out that way, but that is a mindset that we as a team, we as a community, we have to share, because that's who I believe this place is, and that's who I believe we can be moving forward.
Sean, as you look at the offense and how it performed, obviously record-breaking points and all that, but the inability at times to throw the ball down the field. Josh had trouble with that. I know everybody eats, but do you need in this offseason to get a guy who can get downfield? And I know he tried with Cooper, but that quote-unquote number one type guy, do you need to add that to this offense?
Yeah, I don't know, Sal, that it necessarily has to be, you guys are using the label of a number one. I don't know that you have to have that. In fact, when we were in Carolina, went to the Super Bowl, we didn't really have a number one, say. However, do you need to be able to stretch the field horizontally and vertically? Yes, you need to be able to stretch the field horizontally and vertically. and gain separation. So I think I know, in fact, we'll look at that and like we do everything and, evaluate exactly the type of player and the type of person that would fit that.
And Sean, when does your competition committee duties begin?
Today, they started today. Yeah.
I had time for my question.
What did you learn
Thank
last
you.
year about balancing league work and also guys work?
It's really, most of it is in the off time hours. They do a really good job. Troy does of scheduling those in the off hours. So it just means more time, away from my family really, which isn't great. But it also though, I think is important because it gives you a voice into, trying to be an ambassador for what's best for the league, in an unbiased manner, of course.
Sean, you talked about relationships being so important, and you talked about some of that. Josh on Monday said he was proud of you. You think about the reverse of coaches usually being proud of players. What does it mean to have somebody that seen from a rookie, you've seen growing up into this all-pro caliber quarterback, for him to say that he's proud of you?
Well, again, I think it's really, I'm proud of him and it's, based on what he said, he's proud of me. It's, I think, an interesting dynamic, right? And, I don't shy away from that. It's, like I said, it's, it's me growing and, it's not that I was a bad coach before. We went to the playoffs and broke a 17-year drought, right? We do all what we've done, but that doesn't mean Sean McDermott's done growing. But that doesn't mean Sean McDermott's done trying to become the best, husband, father, coach, teammate that he can become. And so that's how I take it really is, whatever, however I can improve, I think we all need to do that. And I think we, usually do a pretty good job of that, but I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not embarrassed of that. And it's not like I was, over here, but you guys know me, you kind of know what to expect, but listen, for me as a coach, I believe this, and I believe this with all my heart. You don't go to a place to coach just to win, right? That's what I'm going to be judged by, and I've been judged by that since the time I got here to the time I'll leave. But you go to a place to win, yes, but the other responsibility you have as a coach is to make an impact on the community, and I believe that. And me continually trying to become a better person, a better father, a better husband, better teammate, better coach. That only enhances my ability to do that. And so it doesn't mean I'm perfect, but that's how I see this mission as a head coach of the Buffalo Bills.
Not trying to make light of that at all. But could 2017 Sean McDermott give vision 2025 2024 Sean McDermott pulling out dad joke?
Probably not. I don't know. I think that the guys don't know how cool I really am, So once in a while you got to remind them. And you get older, right? You get older, like I said, you get more and more comfortable in this job and comfortable being a good word in this case, in this context. And experience certainly helps. And, you learn in a mature way how the job, what you have to do to really win at this job. And that changes a little bit. Like I said, there's a huge mental component to this job and mental piece to our players and our performers, the coaches included. But yeah, I mean, there's just that to me is them seeing who I really am, and I think that's part of it is that you can be vulnerable. I know Coach Vermeil rather well, and you see him over the years being real in front of his team, and that's the real Sean McDermott, and that allows me to have fun and enjoy this too, because it's long, it's tough, and it's not easy, but I love doing what I'm doing.
Sean, we asked you a few times at the end of the year about Matt Milano and his trajectory, where he was. Where did you feel he ended the year heading into the offseason as far as what you see his role is next year?
Yeah, Matt my heart aches for Matt because, come off the year he had the year prior, misses all that time, goes into camp. We're at Pittsburgh, and he, strains his deal there, and then he's out in another X amount of weeks or months. And there's a real mental component to that also, of him being able to get himself back mentally that, hey, I can still do this and I can still do it, not just do it, but do it at a high level like Matt Milano used to do it. And I applaud him for his mental ability and his, just ability to push through overall until he found, again, a rhythm that I think he said, hey, you know what, I can do this. And you saw that at moments, not as consistent as he once was, but going into the off season now, not needing another surgery or not having to rehab will be important for him.
Josh, I know you're a guy who just sticks to what's gotten you to this point, what is success in this organization. But like hearing you talk about Josh, Brandon had some of the things to say about Josh, who he is, not as your franchise quarterback, but as somebody off the field who what he is as a leader. How difficult does that make it to where you get so close to achieving the goal, getting to the Super Bowl? You want that for a guy who's not getting any younger. How difficult does it make it for you to stick to what has worked without wanting to throw a million things at the wall to see what can make that happen with a step of the fingers?
Yeah. No, I definitely want it for Josh. Listen, I want it for all of us, the fans, I want it for the Pegula family. I'd love to be able to hand that thing off to them. That's some of what, that's some of why I was brought here. And that fire burns deep within. And you should know, it's not like we stick with things just to stick with things because that's how we've always done it. That's the last thing we do. We do throw a million things at the wall. It's already begun up in my office and Brandon's offices. That's part of becoming better is, hey, we're going to throw a million things at that wall. And, we may agree, we may disagree, but we're going to come out of it with the best darn answer we can for this football team, whether it's schedule, how we handle this or how we handle that, who we draft, all those things. It's, those conversations are critical as we continue to move forward.
What was your was maybe a pleasant surprise or exceeded expectations for you, whether a player or coach? Was there anyone that just kind of, exceeded?
Yeah, I would start with Dawson Knox. When you get around a person that, again, knows who they are, Dawson served on our leadership council, was a huge component to our success this season, A, from his play, and B, from his leadership. Just a real steady type of person and a guy that Josh has a huge amount of trust in. And I would say he flies under the radar. When you ask me that question, he's one of them, and then certainly a couple of the guys like Ty and Mac and a few others in there as well.
You have certain messages and conversations with every individual player, but was there a common theme and message you left with your group during exit interviews, players, as they head into 2025 and Austin?
Right. When we met, Derek was in there. I think it's more, I don't ever want them to be defined by a result on the field. Again, I know, and they know very well how they're evaluated. That's the day and age that we are in. But I want them to know, most importantly, that they are more than football players. These guys are brought up, like many professional athletes, as the best in the world since the time they're this small. And is that fair? Is it unfair? I don't really know. The challenge is what's going to happen when they finish playing football, right? And I know, this is, hey, we got to win, we got to do this, and I'm right with you on that. But one of the, again, to me, pieces of being a coach that they need me to be is growing them and developing them in a way that they're not just defined by how well they play on a Sunday or how well they play year to year or the way their career finishes. It's who they become as people in the journey of becoming a great football player and making sure that they know that when this game leaves them or they leave the game at some point, that they will survive, they will thrive, and they have more than just football to offer their families, themselves, or our society. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sean.